Hey guys, third week in a row. I'm so proud of myself. This never happens. So, as promised, PhotoPass photographer, what it's like to be a PhotoPass photographer in Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World. So the first thing that we're going to start out with is what you should bring before you even get to Orlando. And that is white, comfortable shoes. And I know a lot of people wear Vans, and they provide shoes that you can buy as well. I say provide. You're given the option to buy a shoe. But a comfortable shoe is literally going to be your saving grace. So they don't have a really defined logo. This kind of worked when it came for logos, because you're not supposed to have that. For being a PhotoPass photographer for a year, and having each shift, you're standing up for 6 to 8 hours or so, 6 to 10 hours. These were my saving grace. They're so comfortable. They're New Balance, which my sister made fun of me. She was like, these are grandpa shoes. Just look up New Balance and it's super comfortable. Don't even care what you look like, because you're at Disney and you're going to be wearing a ridiculous costume. What you look like should kind of be the least of your worries. So that kind of goes into wearing makeup. If you're a person who wears makeup, that's fine. I personally didn't wear makeup during the shifts that I had that were outside and during the day. So from morning till 3 or 4. The reason being is because when you're in Florida, you have to keep reapplying sunscreen, and they do allow you time to do that. So if you feel like you're burning, or if let's just say it's been an hour, 2 hours, and you haven't reapplied sunscreen, you, as long as you let someone know that you're stepping off to do that, that's completely fine. Let's go into training. So you're going to start out with regular icon training, so that's just day, so doing the castle, Cinderella's castle. Then you're going to do nighttime photography, and then you're going to do character photography, which is so much fun. So if I were to give a timeline for that, I would say, in my personal experience, I did day photography, then I think two weeks went by, then I did night photography, and then another 2 weeks went by and I got character trained. So it really only took me a month. Someone told me it was going to take a couple months, but in my personal experience that didn't happen, and I was super grateful because working with characters was one of the best experiences I've ever had. It was seriously so much fun. I do suggest that you have prior photographer experience if you're going to apply for this role. I don't mean it in you have to be a photographer. No, it's not a prestige thing. It's just that when they train you, they can only teach you so much, and a lot of people that I saw, whether they'd been there for years or they were just starting out, if they didn't have, there are just some people who did not photograph well, and it really took a damper on some of the guests' experience. It took away from the guests' experience. So I do suggest that if you have the means to do so, I would suggest taking a class so you can learn kind of the fundamentals and the proper framing for photography. Because like I said, they can teach you, but you only get so much time, and it's not a one-on-one training. So yeah, one tip that I have for being a photographer, I know this isn't a tip thing, but this is just a tip for if you do want to do this role, is the thing that I was most concerned about was not dying of heat exhaustion and not fainting. That was something that I was oh my god, I'm going to Florida and I'm gonna die. Luckily, I prepared really well. I was overly cautious, which is great. Always be overly cautious in everything that you do. No, don't do that. But I was overly cautious, so I was always putting on sunscreen 1 to 2 hours, and then hydrating. I know that this should be a basic common knowledge, but it's not, apparently. Hydrate before you even get to work. So I always made sure to drink a bottle before I even got to work. You welcome to drink more, obviously. And then when you're at work, they recommend you should be drinking a bottle on hot days. you should be drinking a bottle every hour to keep up. Also, when it comes to heat, not a lot of people know this, but in Magic Kingdom at least, we had heat breaks. So someone, on the really, really hot days, like in the summer, we would have people who would come and give us like a 10 to 15 minute break so we could rest, get some shade, go inside, get some air conditioning, refill our water bottle, and reapply our sunscreen. And like I said earlier, when it comes to safety, safety is the most important thing, so if you do need to step off for the bathroom, heat, sunscreen, whatever it is that's necessary, as long as you tell someone that you are stepping off, that is perfectly fine because, like I said, Disney wants you to be okay. When it comes to breaks, breaks come about every 2 to 3 hours generally, and they are 15 minutes and 30 minutes depending on like how long your shift is. So if you have a 6-hour shift, you're gonna get one 15-minute break. And when I first heard this, I was like, that's nothing for 6 hours. Like, that's nothing. But you have to think about, like, you're clocking in, you're getting your gear, you're having like a morning meeting, so that takes up like 20 minutes already. Then you have to walk to your location. So that's already cutting down on the time that like you're outside and you're shooting. These are the breaks, the designated breaks. For 6-hour shifts, it's one 15-minute break. Then it's for 6.5 to 8 hours, it's one 15-minute and one 30-minute unpaid. Then 8.5 hours to 10 hours, it's 30 minutes paid, 30 minutes unpaid. Then for 10.5 hours to 11.5, which I might have had, it's 15, I think it's like 15, 30, 30. This one says 45 and 30, but I never got a 45-minute break. I got like 3 different breaks, and I think it had to have been 1:15 and 2:30. So I'm going to talk a little bit about working with characters. Like I said, working with characters is a beautiful, magical experience, and I truly loved it. One thing that they'll appreciate, the characters will appreciate that you do, and character attendants, is if you bring pens. Sometimes a character attendant is answering a guest's question, and they will not be able to like provide a pen in that moment, and the characters don't have pens on them. But make sure you're given a pouch, so like it's really nice if you bring pens or markers or something to give to the characters. I can't talk. When you're working with a character, under no circumstance, unless it's an emergency, are you supposed to leave. So utilize your character attendant. The character attendants generally have radios on them, so if you need batteries or some assistance. Like one time my breaks were a little off, and I had 4 hours left in my shift, and I really needed to go to the bathroom, and so luckily someone got a coordinator, and they let me go to the bathroom, and they took pictures while I went to the bathroom. Just saying, utilize the people that are around you. Everyone wants to help, generally. Also, when you're working at Magic Kingdom, you will either be working Main Street, which is a completely different costume, or Global, which is everywhere else. And then there's a shift called Float, which means you don't know which costume you're gonna wear. So you have to bring each costume. One tip that I would say is if you are going to be a PhotoPass photographer, be creative and fun. Basically, treat every guest as if it's their first time going to Disney. They could be a freaking annual pass holder that goes every weekend, and you should still be treating them like it's their first time ever. Think beforehand of like the kind of creative poses that you might want to do. My personal favorite was asking guys if they were willing to do princess poses in front of the castle. That was always my personal favorite. And a lot of them would always like want to do that and think it was really funny. Remember that you do work at Disney, so being silly and fun is actually encouraged. So rain is something that happens in Florida, right? It happens a lot. Another thing that I was like, well, what do I do if it rains? We have rain locations. You're given little maps in like designated areas, so don't worry about that. One of the things that I was concerned about was, since I'm a small person, I'm like 5'3", and I'm relatively lean. I'm not very strong. My upper strength sucks. And since I am the weakest person that I personally know, I will say that being able to handle the camera equipment on your neck and the tripod, sometimes carrying the tripod, was manageable. So don't worry about that if that's something that you're worried about, because that was something that I was worried about. The last bit of information that I'm going to give you is this a role that is it independent or do you work with others? And it kind of depends on where you are. If you're doing an icon, then it's mostly independent. The only interaction you really get is with other guests. When you're working with characters, the character attendant and the character are there as well. And then there's the view station, which you're trained on, obviously. And that's where you like go over people's photos and like show them and see if they want to buy them. And that's when you're standing next to other photographers, so that is like the prime location where you can get to know a lot of your coworkers, aside from breaks. So that's what it is to be a PhotoPass photographer. I know that's a lot of information, but I hope at least some of it was helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask, because I don't know what I missed because there was just a lot of information. I will say that being a PhotoPass photographer was honestly the best job I've ever had in my entire life. I could literally go to work in a bad mood and come from work in a better mood. And that's not like some brainwash stuff. That was just honestly what it was like. You can have, of course there will be guests that are like grumpy and hot, and you're gonna have to deal with that. But a lot of the guests just want to experience something magical. They're there, they're so happy to be there, and it's those guests that truly make your day. And just seeing a kid, you know, go up to their favorite princess for the first time, or go up to their favorite character and hug them, and being able to physically capture that moment is one of the most rewarding things I could think of. So if you are looking to be a PhotoPass photographer, or if you just got accepted to be a PhotoPass photographer, look forward to it, because it was a really great time. Alright, see you next time. Bye! Oh! I forgot! I'm going to NerdCon tomorrow! So that's a thing. So I will be there. Probably no one who is watching this will be there, but I'm hoping to maybe vlog or take some footage of it. Probably won't. We'll find out. But I'll see you next time. Bye! I do suggest that you have prior photographer. Cut out that section, Nicole. It's stupid. Now we're going to do lightning round question. We're not doing a lightning round.